Boys and gents, and welcome to CG Reaction. And this is the man, the legend, the myth, the mystery, Rasputin, the man who didn't die, by the channel Simple History. This is just ridiculous. I heard about this. I think it was Oversimplified channel where I heard about this man. I don't believe it, to be brutally honest. How they tried to kill him and he still didn't die. I don't believe that, even though there's enough evidence to back that up. I still don't believe it, because they are saying that the people poisoned him with cyanide, and enough cyanide to kill multiple people. He didn't die. He just ate all the food, like nothing, anything more. Then they beat the hell him up. Then they shot him, and as soon as they shot him, he violently stood up. So they shot him again many times. Then they wrapped him up in the whatever something. They wrapped him up and threw him in the river. And from there he died or something like that. I mean, come on, man. First of all, cyanide is really potent. If you give that much cyanide to anyone, is gonna die regardless of what. That's just science. How the hell he didn't die? All right. So, I don't believe this story, alright? I feel like it's exaggerated because all the mystics, at the time people thought he had some mystical powers or something. He was, at the time was aligned with, the Tsar Nicholas and his family during the Soviets time. So, I think people just created this persona about him. So I don't believe all this thing happened. But I don't know, enough evidence to back enough people are saying that this happened. So I don't know, could be, but I don't believe it. So let's watch this video.
This episode is sponsored by Wix. Go to wix.com/go/simplehistory to create a website today. Rasputin, the man who wouldn't die. December 30th, 1916. Grigory Efimovich Rasputin was born on January 21st, 1869 in Siberia, Russia, to a peasant family, and led a simple life until he reached the age of 28, when it's alleged that he had a religious awakening during a pilgrimage, and after that became a wandering, self-proclaimed holy man. Throughout Rasputin's life, there were constant rumors of him being involved in debauchery, drunkenness, womanizing, strange occult rituals, and belonging to a mysterious cult. But despite all this, by 1906, Rasputin was a popular high society figure in St. Petersburg and had become friends with Tsar Nicholas II and his family. By now, he had become known simply as Rasputin, and the Tsar's wife, Queen Alexandra, increasingly saw him as a prophet and a visionary who could heal her hemophiliac son, Alexei. Over the next 10 years, Rasputin's influence over the royal family and their political decisions grew and grew. This caused much resentment amongst the Russian people and politicians. There were attempts to...
So around this time, Tsar Nicholas, fired his general. World War I was going on. So he fired his general and he went there to, tackle the forces by himself. People were starting to hate him. And at the same time, he was aligned with, this mystical, Rasputin guy. And people started to see how much influence he had on them. Around this time, people start to, have distrust towards Tsar, because he was already screwing up so much, and then he is taking advice from this mystical cult guy. So around this time, people are already starting to get pissed about that. This is one of the things that really helped Lenin to overthrow Tsar Nicholas.
To curtail his power, and it was even an assassination attempt. For on July 12, 1914, a 33-year-old deeply religious peasant woman called Chonya Guseva stabbed Rasputin in the stomach while he was visiting his home village of Pokrovskoy.
Okay.
Rasputin was seriously wounded and nearly died. Guseva claimed that Rasputin was a false prophet and the Antichrist. She was later judged insane and sent to a mental asylum for her crime.
Okay, so I didn't know about that. So see that one stabbing, he almost died there. So all that sign and all that bullet, and that didn't kill him, really?
World War I was going badly for Russia due to poor leadership and logistical problems. By December 1916, its armed forces were on the brink of collapse. During this time, both Rasputin and the royal family had become incredibly unpopular. Many feared that Rasputin's influence over the royal family was seriously affecting the war effort. So a group of nobles and politicians plotted to kill him. This was led by Prince Felix Yusupov and his young friend Grand Duke Dmitry Pavlovich. On the night of December 29, 1916, the two of them invited Rasputin to a small party at the Moika Royal Palace. What happened next is open to debate, as much of it has become hearsay, sensationalism, half-truths, and urban legend, as Rasputin was always seen by the public as a mysterious figure, and his death soon became a tale of his mystic, almost superhuman powers. The popular account about his death is that waiting for him at the palace were Prince Felix Yusupov and Grand Duke Dmitry Pavlovich, while upstairs were several co-conspirators, including the renowned opposition politician Vladimir Purishkevich. Once at the palace, Prince Yusupov offered Rasputin tea and cakes that had been laced with enough cyanide to kill 3 or 4 men. But this seemed to...
There you go. This is the incident I was talking about. See, the thing is, enough people say that this happened, so any normal person would be like, so isn't that enough as enough evidence to say that happened? Well, this is so mysterious and this is so, let's just out of this world. People still say that all this evidence is kind of, foggy. Because nobody would believe this. This much cyanide, a person should not survive after that. Cyanide is really potent. When talking about poison, cyanide is really potent. And enough cyanide to kill multiple people, didn't kill him. That's science fiction right there. So that's why it doesn't matter how much evidence you get. When talk like this happens, people are gonna go like, you know what, this probably didn't happen. This is just hearsay.
To have no effect.
And by the way, Rasputin and Russia's president's name is right now Putin. Coincidence? Yes, coincidence.
So the prince gave him some Madeira wine, also laced with cyanide. But again, this seemed to have no effect on him, even after drinking 3 glasses, apart from getting him a little more drunk. Then, Prince Yusupov went to get a revolver and came back and shot Rasputin in the chest. Rasputin promptly collapsed on the floor and seemed to be dead. Prince Yusupov then left the palace with the other co-conspirators, one of whom was wearing Rasputin's hat.
Hold up a minute. I thought the story went that, he was shot and he just, aggressively stood up, so they shot him multiple times after that.
In the hope that it would give the impression that Rasputin had left the palace to return home. A short while later, the princes returned to the palace, and much to his surprise, the supposedly dead Rasputin leapt up and attacked them. Then Rasputin staggered into the palace courtyard, where it is said he was shot 2 more times. It is then claimed that Rasputin was beaten by Prince Yusupov with a dumbbell, and in the early hours of the morning of December 30th.
So they were panicking, I think. They're like, he should be dead. He took so much cyanide. I shot him. He's still alive. So they just panicked and shot him multiple times. They're like, find anything. They just found dumbbells somewhere and they're like, I'm going to beat him with this. Beat him with a dumbbell, really?
1916 was carried to a nearby bridge and thrown into the freezing Malaya Nevka River below. It is said that Rasputin was last seen very much alive, thrashing about in the freezing cold water as he floated downriver, clinging to a lump of ice. 2 days later, on January 1st, 1917, Rasputin's dead body was found under the ice-covered river, approximately 650...
Wait a minute, I thought they wrapped him up in carpet or something before throwing him in the river.
50 feet downstream from the bridge. Some of the details of his murder may have been untrue or exaggerated, but what we do know for certain comes from the official autopsy carried out on Rasputin's body. We know that Rasputin had been shot 3 times, and one of those shots was in the forehead at very close range, and was the cause of his death. That the coroner could find no trace of any poison anywhere in his body. He also concluded that Rasputin was most likely dead when his body was dropped into the river. There were also deep cuts and bruising on his body, but they were not believed to be from a beating as commonly claimed, but to have been done post-mortem when Rasputin's body was dumped into the river through a fishing hole that had been carved into the iced-over river. Prince Felix Yusupov and Grand Duke Dmitry Pavlovich's...
See, there you go, exaggeration. So he wasn't poisoned because there is no way in hell cyanide would miss. Cyanide would kill you regardless of what. So he wasn't poisoned. That was his exaggeration. He was shot and killed. And then he didn't just stood up. Obviously, he was shot and killed. He was thrown in the river. And no, in the river, he wasn't thrashing about because he was dead.
The role in Rasputin's murder was quickly discovered. Queen Alexandra was so angered by the murder that she wanted both of them shot straight away by firing squad without trial. But instead, Prince Yusupov was exiled to his country estate, and Archduke Pavlovich was sent to serve in a Russian army garrison in Persia. As for Rasputin, he was buried on January 2nd, 1917, the day after his body was discovered, at a small local church in a ceremony attended by the royal family and a few close friends. Shortly afterwards, the Russian Revolution occurred. Tsar Nicholas II was forced to abdicate, bringing an end to the Russian Empire. This Simple History episode was brought to you by Wix. Don't let website building be a mystery.
So yeah, that makes more sense. He was just shot and he died and threw his body into the river. Everything is just, exaggerated by people. People saw him as like some cult guy who was just mystical, had powers and stupid shit like that. But no. But there is something, isn't it? The Rasputin story is really strong in Russia, I think. Lots of people still believe that all those things happen. He didn't die, cyanide couldn't kill him. I mean, really? Cyanide would kill him. Alright people, if you like my reaction, don't forget to like and subscribe. Check out other reactions that I did. There's a link in the description with all of my videos. Check out the end card, check out the card. And I'll see you next time.